Okay, welcome back to the bench. So I'm trying to make sure that I keep things moving on the channel, so I have a lot of different things going on at once. And of course, just off to the left of the camera view, there is that All-American 5-type radio, and we're working on it. I still have things to do. It's an ongoing restoration, so still checking components, seeing what's going to be replaced and trying to find more information. But one of the things that's going to have to eventually be done to it is it's going to need an alignment, which you could do visually with a signal generator and a nice signal analyzer. I don't have a signal analyzer, and I'm not sure if you've checked the prices recently, but they cost a bit. So another way of doing it, which we're probably going to wind up doing, is with something like this, which is a vacuum tube voltmeter, VTVM. And this is an EICO model. It literally just came in from eBay. It needs to be gone through, serviced, and restored to some level of function. It has not been plugged in. I have not put it in the isolation transformer and powered it up with the dim bulbs because I have not gone through it yet. It literally just showed up within the last hour. So the gentleman that sold it didn't really know what it was capable of or what kind of condition it was, and he said it did power up. And of course, I'm not going to power it up because I have no idea what could be going on in there. But basically, he took a pretty good deal on it. I think it was a generous offer because of what I think is probably lurking in there based on other models. Now, we do have another vacuum tube, an EICO model. I don't know if you've noticed, I like EICO. It works for me. And we do have another model just behind the camera, but it's the smaller, the 232 version. So this is a little bit bigger, a little bit more what I want, and I'm getting older, so the dial face is a little bit easier to read. Don't know if you noticed that. So this is going to just be a flyover, and we'll go ahead and pop it open and see what's in there, and then that'll probably be it for this video. And I think that's gonna be how I intend to continue releasing videos. It seems a little easier for me, so I hope it's not too much of a disturbance for you. And then possibly when all these things are done, or as we're finishing them, I'll start editing them together into one video so that people will have the option. They can either watch the 15 videos leading up to, or they can watch just the whole thing in a long form. It's going to depend. So here's our flyover, and looking at it, obviously we've got a couple of mismatched knobs. But everything at least is here, and I was able to kind of flip through and turn this rotary encoder, which is feeling pretty decent. And let's check this one. Actually, it feels pretty good. It doesn't feel like I don't hear anything grinding. It's a nice, good, solid, good chunk all the way around. So those, obviously we don't know what circuitry looks like, but at least the switches themselves seem to be functioning. We'll have to check to make sure they function electrically. As far as our ohms adjust, I'm just gonna turn the potentiometer. I haven't done any of this yet, so just kind of turning that through its range. It feels like it's connected. It feels like it's, again, in actually pretty good shape. We'll have to see what it's actually doing electrically, but it looks like it's working pretty well. So and then the zero adjust, same. Well, the zero adjust has just a little bit of drag to it, not much, and it feels like it's all the way through that range, not just in one spot. And it's I'm going to guess it's a little bit of dirt because as I'm rotating it back and forth, it feels like it's getting a little bit looser. So yeah, that's probably just a little bit of dirt in there, but that's all going to get cleaned up anyway. So our lights, there's no holes in the front. I'm a big fan when there's no holes in the front of anything, and also there's actually a dial in the front. Now I can see that there's something on the dial face, the actual paper. Not sure if that shows up in the camera or not. And it's not on the glass on the outside of it. It's definitely on the paper. So something has been in there. But when I was handling it, I did notice something that was encouraging and also something disturbing. One of the things that I do whenever I have any kind of a meter is I always check to see if the needle is has free spring in it. So in this case, see that? It does, which is good. And I don't want to do it too vigorously, but if I move it, did you hear that? Yeah, something is rolling around in there. That was the disturbing part. What is the rolling around thingy? I'm not a fan of rolling around thingies. I'm very much a fan of not rolling around thingies. Except for when Mrs. Monkey's involved. I like rolling around there. So anyway, we've got all of our screws, which is good. It's slotted screws, which that's just a thing. I don't know if you've noticed or if I've mentioned my contempt for slotted screws. I literally hate them. They make me angry just looking at them. Yes, they're easy to remove. They're easy to put back in with almost any tool, but there's a tool. There's a tool for every job, for crying out loud. And that mentality is just meat fisting, and man, I hate that. It's too easy to, I want the thing to look nice. If I'm going to spend a whole bunch of time restoring it, the last thing I want to do is, go to take the panel off to service it for something later and wind up putting a big gouge across the front. So it's probably going to get some different types of screws, even though it's not original. Man, I don't care. I don't want to mess up the equipment after I spend a bunch of time fixing it. Now this faceplate, the one good thing about EICO equipment is these faceplates really clean up nice. And just to give you an example, just over the back, you're going to see that the 950B, that's a piece of EICO equipment, and that thing was just absolutely filthy. It was 10 times worse than this faceplate was, and it looks almost brand new. And I could probably make it a little bit nicer if I wanted to. I just don't want. It's fine the way it is. So usually with these things, a little bit of gentle cleaning and some elbow grease, and man, they clean right up, and usually fairly well. So I'm gonna go ahead and tip this thing forward just a little bit so that we can take a look at the top of the chassis, and you can see we've got rust. I'm not sure how well it's showing up on camera, but there's also rust right around where the handle joins against the actual chassis. So again, all this is going to get addressed. So let's go ahead and give it a little turn. So this side of it actually doesn't look too bad. A little bit of rust, some rust down here in the bottom. This is where the rust starts to concern me, is when you see it right around the bottom, because that means it may have been laying on the inside like this. Let's go ahead and set this up a little bit. There's not really, I know that's probably not going to be easy to see, there isn't really a lot of rust on the bottom of the cabinet, but there is right in this crack, which is a pretty reasonable indicator, not necessarily correct, but that means there could have been water that was in the bottom of this chassis sitting. So there's no feet on it. I'll be honest, I don't think they came with feet. I could be wrong on that, but if it did come with feet, there's something left on this, and there were holes drilled in it, but I have no idea if that was an EICO thing or if that was something somebody else did, but that may have kept any water from sitting in it. I don't know. We're not going to know until we open it up and take a look at the inside. So let's go ahead and flip it over to the back. And we see a little bit of the same. Not quite as bad, but there's still some surface rust right over here. Both of the screws are here. Our rubber grommet is old and dry, but it's still there. And this cord, oh man, this cord. Look at this cord. You ready for this? Okay. It's not soft. It's not really rigid like you see them sometimes, but it's a little bit brittle. And look at this. Yeah, that's pretty neat. The former owner had sent me a picture of this, and I went, oh man, look at that. It's still got the bugs in it. I could make some soup. Okay, so go ahead and take a look at this other side. This is where there's a lot of bare metal, and you can see the pitting on it is not as horrible as it looked in some of the pictures, but it's still pretty suspect. You see the finish is kind of, it's just pretty much was down to almost bare metal right there, and then this, you know, that's all going to have to get addressed. So I think this whole thing is just going to get some major body work, at least paint. We'll have to take off all the old stuff. So, okay, so, but for the most part, the reason that I wanted this one was because everything was there, and no holes in the front, no missing screws. This bevel is all in one piece. There's no cracks in the plastic. There's no busted pieces. You know, I'm assuming that at one time this was somebody's daily use bench piece of test gear, but they didn't do any damage. It just looks like, I know it came from Georgia. It was in Georgia for a while, so got a humid climate, not too far from the ocean, a little bit of salt. So that's about what I would expect to see if it was sitting in a non-air conditioned, non-climate controlled environment for a long time. It's actually not all that bad, all things considered. So, okay, I've already decided I'm not going to try and work around a camera and a microphone. This microphone boom is very intrusive. The camera was bad enough, but with this here, it's all I can do to move things around on the bench just so that you can see them. So and with that slotted screws, I'm definitely not playing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the camera right here, and then I'll get the screws out of the chassis, get it ready to pull out, and then we'll do that part of the reveal in the next video. So, okay, be right back. Well, here we go, Murphy's Law. The exact same thing that happened with this device is the same thing that happened when I pulled the radio out of the chassis. Just a quick explanation. We're using two different audio feeds. One is on the camera, the other is on the microphone. The microphone is hooked directly to a PC. The camera does not have a live output, so I have to record a segment, then I have to take the SD card out of the camera, I have to put that into a card reader in the PC, and then I have to basically cut the portions and line up the audio. So every now and then you're going to see if I flip a switch or I tap a lens or I do something, it's not going to quite match up because the software, quite frankly, is free and isn't all that great. But it does a pretty good job, I think, for what we're doing. The problem is I've twice now taken good audio and good video, and then I go to take the SD card out of the camera, I shut it off, pull the thing out, and then take it over to the PC, and the PC says that the file is corrupt and it will not load. And then all kinds of expletives come out of my mouth. And the fact that both times it happened when I'm trying to get that part, I know there's a lot of people that really like that when you just take that device and you open it for the first time in years, and it's just ruined. So I now have pristine audio on my PC saved for it and absolutely no video. So if you want, I will slap the video on at the end or the audio on the end so you can hear me open it, because that is as much fun as watching paint dry, and all I can do is scream a little bit in my head and get mad or laugh. So I guess I'm just gonna laugh. Well, since the reveal's already kind of ruined, I did open it just moments ago, and what I'm noticing is hopefully the camera's going to keep working. There's waxies. I only see one capacitor that's a newer style. I know what I was going to do. Right when the camera sort of crapped out, I guess, called it a corrupt file. And that's what got me noticing something was askew. I was about to cut a wire tie, so let me do that. There we go. Could just about cut this cord off right now. I have no intentions of keeping this thing at all. Yeah, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do that. Let's just go ahead and give her a snip. Right here. This thing is out of there. Okay. Okay. Now, where were we? Okay, so now that the chassis is separated, let's see if we can get a little bit better look at that. The rust kind of in there, and that is, I described that in the video that got ruined. That's about what I was expecting to see, because of the rust that was in this corner edge. Looks like water was able to lay down here in the corner all the way along the chassis, and it's like that. It looks like on both sides, so that's gonna all have to be addressed. Looks like some kind of a bug or something in there. That's the thing that was rolling around for sure. So, and it does look like there's some kind of rubber feet. So there's that. Well, we can go ahead and move this off for now. There is nothing electrically, or nothing, yeah, there's nothing electrical in that point. So let's go ahead and see if we can move this so we can see in here just a tad bit better. So, and right down here, there is a capacitor. I'm not sure how well that's gonna show up. See if I can zoom in. So that black cap is not a waxy. That's an electrolytic. It's an axial cap. I'm not sure exactly what the rating is yet, but it's definitely not a waxy. So we have 1, 2, 3 wax caps up there on the top side, and those will all go. We don't keep those. I am seeing that there is a resistor right in front of the screwdriver blade, and that looks to me like a 1%er, and it looks like a newer style for sure. It's not one of the Allen Bradley types, definitely, and it's not one of the older wire wound. Sometimes you'll see like a wire wound resistor on a ceramic, really nice, and don't really drift in value. There's another little waxy hiding back here in the back. So 4 caps, looks like waxies. That'll have to be checked. I don't think you can really see it. So go ahead and zoom this back out here. Lots of resistors up here, and I was expecting to see that. Got a nice coating on it. I'm not sure that that's original. I have not pulled a schematic on this thing at all, so I don't know. I don't see any obvious signs of failure or foul play. So my guess is, since somebody had gone through the trouble of replacing at least a cap and at least a resistor, that this was probably working fairly well. I'm not sure that it was lined or anything, but you know, I expect these encoders to be a little nastier. These rotary switches, I expected them to be a little bit nastier, and they're not. And I'm kind of thinking that maybe that's an indication that somebody got in here and did a little bit of cleaning and some oiling in the not too distant past. Just because, like I said, they seem like they feel pretty good. So there's that. Let's go ahead and just at this point, I'm looking to see, does anything look like it's new replaced, or you know, I'm not going to touch any of these pots right here just in case it is kind of in some kind of alignment. It's not going to matter. It's going to need another alignment anyway. We're going to change components, so for certain it will need that. Let's take a look at our transformer and our battery. Now, this is, I'm going to make sure that I'm sitting it right here on the edge of this. I don't want to damage any resistors. They're on the bottom, so not a whole lot going on up here. We've got a lamp light, so the power indicator light right there. We have our vacuum tubes. The reason they call it a vacuum tube voltmeter, they look to be in decent shape. I've got a nice shiny getter spot, and I'm not seeing the telltale signs that either tube has gone atmospheric. It doesn't. Now that doesn't mean that they're okay. That just means I don't see any physical signs yet. And then here's the big one, is this Rayovac battery. This is one of the things, and this is a problem on a lot of the EICO meters, a lot of vacuum tube voltmeters, is their DC voltage. They use this big monster battery, and it's, you know, older than dirt, and it's been in here since Washington was a corporal. Let's see if it, come on, I'm out of here, you sucker. Oof, a little more. Just kind of twisting it out there, and come on. That's out. This is a D cell, kids. It's a big one. 1.5 whole volts. Not designed for retail trade. It's a Rayovac. I have no idea if this is the original battery. It very well could be. We'll have to look it up. Kind of interested in that. You want to see if it actually has juice in it? We could do that real quick. Let's check it. The corrosion's not bad. Now, a lot of the times these things, the batteries will go, and when they go, they really corrode this. It looks like, I'm going to guess that's probably not the original battery, because I'm not sure that that's the original plate. It could be. What do I know? Not really sure. Let's get a voltmeter real quick and see if our D cell is still got juice in it. I bet you it does. I bet you it's got a little bit of juice left in there. I doubt it's 1.5 volts, but I don't know if we can get the camera or not here, but we'll give it a shot. I don't want to set that very gently. Okay. Can we see? Okay. Look at that. 1.452 volts. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, that battery is, like I said, I think it came over on the Mayflower. It's old. All kinds of rust and corrode. It's not, I've seen worse, you know, it doesn't have that big cloudy thing. That black kind of, that makes me think it's probably not as old. Makes me think it's probably like 70s. Rayovac Division, ESB Incorporated, Madison, Wisconsin. So, it's WM10, what it says. Industrial. Okay, pretty neat stuff. So, go ahead and get this off. Okay, so what we'll have to do at this point, this is going to kind of conclude our fly. Now, I guess one thing that I should mention is I don't see, a lot of times they'll put like a jitter capacitor across a meter movement when it's jumpy, you know, like right across here. And I don't see that. I see a nice little twisted pair of wires. It actually looks kind of clean. As a matter of fact, it almost, I'm thinking, it seems like something's missing other than the battery. But what do I know? I haven't actually been in the back of one of these. I've been into similar sorts of things. There is some corrosion on the back of the faceplate, but it's just mostly on the surface, so I think that'll clean up pretty well. We can stop that. I think a lot of it's just transfer from, yeah, I think a lot of this is just transfer from the metal chassis. So, and that dust kind of looks a lot like corrosion. So I think we probably had a previous battery rupture, or 2 or 10, that caused all that buildup. So we'll get that cleaned out of there, get it all cleaned up, and then again carefully on that. I'll probably run these to a guy. I know a guy. He's got the tube tester. Actually, we have one of those coming, but I'm going to have to restore that in order to test the tubes. So I'm probably just going to run these to Fat Tony and have him plug them in and see if they're any good. And provided those are good, normally you can test, allegedly you can test tubes in the circuit. I don't have an argument with that, but when you're talking about something that you're using to measure, I want to make sure that they're as sturdy as possible. So I don't want somebody else to slap them in another circuit. Now, that's not going to tell us whether they're going to work perfect in this circuit, but it'll tell us whether or not they're good, valid, viable tubes, or whether they're, you know, no bueno. So, and of course, I'll go ahead and I'll test a transformer. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm guessing it's probably going to be good. And we'll look up some of this other stuff, see if I can get some of these capacitors on order, and off camera I'll go ahead and test the I'll test the resistors. Now I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to submit that probably most of the resistors in this are good, because they went through the trouble of changing some and not all of them. Now the Allen Bradleys could you know, these depending on the environment, and since it wasn't an environment where the battery was leaking and that gas that would have been that would have caused some issues and could have contaminated what actually makes up the resistive material in the resistor. There could be some issues with those, but I bet you they're probably not that far off. Well, we're not going to know until we measure them, but I'll go through and I'll measure all the resistors between now and the next video and see what needs to be ordered. I'll replace these waxies, and then hopefully, as long as everything else looks good and we have good tubes, we should be able to get the chassis cleaned up, the faceplate cleaned up, everything else, get this all de-gunkified and de-nastified, and get it all back together, and then we should be able to do an alignment. So based on what I'm seeing, it's not in that bad a shape. It's actually in pretty decent shape, so we should you know, have a good viable meter. The movement was working, and everything appears to be present. I still feel like there's something in there, but I'll go through the schematics. I'll dig one up and go through it piece by piece, and then in the next video maybe we'll break that down just a little bit and show you what we needed to replace, and then we'll go from there. So, okay, I'm gonna edit this together and call this a day. Again, sorry about the reveal. It just, man, I think I'm probably angrier about that than most of you. 2 different videos is happening. I'm gonna have to get a new camera. So, okay, until the next video, be kind to yourself, be nice to each other, and just don't mimic the monkey, especially with the cameras.